This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma in the Sabi Sand, South Africa. My name is Steve. I'm joined on camera by VM. We are out again in the African wilderness. It is a very beautiful morning down here in South Africa. It is 21 degrees Celsius, 67 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no jackets. It's so lovely this time of year to be driving around without any jackets. We're out in search of whatever tracks we might be able to find. Please send through your questions and comments, hashtag SafariLive, or drop them on the YouTube chat stream. We'd love to hear from you. I'm going to be joined out shortly by Sydney on walk, and we do have Brent Leo Smith up in the Masai Mara, who will be entertaining us from that side. So please jump on board, get your nice hot cup of coffee or tea, or whatever it is you might be enjoying this morning or this evening, wherever you are in the world. Let us know how you're doing. My first morning out in the wilderness again after 3 weeks. It's very nice to just sit and just take in the smells, and it's very quiet so far. We've seen a duiker, haven't even seen an impala yet, so that's how quiet it is this morning. But that is what happens. Sometimes the morning starts off very quiet, and then all of a sudden things just pop out. So we popped down to the dam cam a little while ago and had a little scratch around there. We didn't look too hard, but we did look in all the usual places where Hosana hangs around, and he's not there at the moment. But I'm not going to disturb that area too much with regards to tracks. We'll wait for the bushwalk team possibly to come out, see if they can track him down. We might do a little bit of a loop, go to some of the old haunts. I know that old Tingana was seen somewhere around Treehouse Dam yesterday, but obviously I didn't go into that area. So we're going to move through and see if we can pick up on any tracks. Ooh, there's a Franklin alarm calling off to the left here. See if you can hear that. So that is a nice call to hear from a Franklin. It's not 100% accurate, but when they're doing that, it's very worthwhile having a little look around and see if you can see any moving cat. But the bird seems to be moving while it's doing it. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on the camera, but the movement is kind of moving. If you find them doing that noise, sitting in a little branch about 2 meters or 3 meters up, then guaranteed there's something of a predatory nature hanging around there on the floor. So we're just going to have a little look around here. Seems to have moved off that way. I'll just go up a little bit, see if maybe there is something moving. But while we do that, we're going to be flying all the way up to the Masai Mara with Brent Leo Smith himself, who would like to say beautiful morning to you from Kenya.
Oh, good morning and welcome to another magnificent Mara sunrise. This time, we've got a black-chested snake eagle in it, all fluffed up from the chill of the night. There was a little bit of rain around last night, just enough to wet the ground and damp the dust and make the poor snake eagle slightly cold and uncomfortable. So fluffed up, waiting for those bright sun rays to break across the eastern horizon. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Manu on camera, and you can see he's racing motorbikes today by his gloves as usual. So he drives that camera as fast as a Formula, well, no, what's it called? MotoGP is what they call the motorbike version of Formula 1. So hopefully we'll have good use for his quick hands with some action this morning. Now, of course, we are 100% live, and you can send your questions through to us by using the hashtag SafariLive, or just pop it onto the YouTube chat. Now, hopefully, Steve gets some luck with the Franklin alarm calls. I'm going to keep meandering down towards the south. I'm going to head down towards the river crossings today, see if there's anything there. If we have no luck around the river crossings, we'll cut across towards the west, see if we can find anything towards the Olololo escarpment, Ingarare, and that area. Now, it's been quite busy in the Mara over the last little while, but the weather has been fantastic. Joanne is wondering whether the rumoured cheetah cubs were found yesterday. Well, they're not cubs, Joanne. They're sub-adults already. We're not sure who the mother is. Scotty did find them, but they were quite skittish, and he was unable to get close enough to them to get any ID on them. It could be Nasarian. It could also be a female cheetah from the Lamai wedge that we have absolutely no idea who she is. So we might head down into that area to have a look. Might also do a wander through the area where Kakanya has been. But I think to start the morning, I'm going to look for the Mogoro lionesses and have a look around the crossings, and then make my way west from there. Now, you can see on the road the tracks. The rain just settled the dust, but already a few vehicles and an elephant or two, and the dust is back. But hopefully we're going to have some luck further down the road. Let's go back to Steve to see what that Franklin was shouting about.
Yes, well, we weren't able to find anything of interest, but here we've got two of the alarm clocks of the bush, the crested Franklins, which do that shouting that we heard before. These are the exact birds, and quite a reliable indicator of a leopard, if I may say so myself. Cheetah as well. We do, as you know, get more leopard in this area. You can hear one in the background, another Franklin just calling. The crested Franklin's got that very... Can you hear that? It's a duet call, in fact, and it's actually saying the words Frank and Lynn. If you believe me. One of those easy ways to remember. A lot of people will get the Franklin, the crested Franklin, mixed up with the Natal spur fowl, which also used to be a Franklin, and now it's not. It's a spur fowl because it's slightly bigger, and they've got spurs on the back, even though the male Franklin, I do believe, has also got a spur in the back. So that's one of those interesting sort of name changes. They're very, very similar in their size, all part of the galliforms, related to the guinea fowl, very important ground nesting birds. Produce an enormous amount of chicks throughout the year, sometimes 3-4 clutches. And they are very good at scratching their way around, digging up, spreading the seeds. Sorry, Lou, I got you saying Nkuhumas and something about them arriving. Sorry about that. Oh, James, you hitting interesting stuff on the head there. James wants to know about the next migratory bird. Well, James, that's a very good question. It's a very good question. I was thinking, I've come back now. I'm really going to put a lot of effort in the next 10 days into migratory birds, because they are going to be coming back in their droves in the next little while. I have just got back, so the only migratory bird I've seen so far, I haven't seen one. We just stopped at the Wahlberg's nest, and VM assures me that they're there. I did see one of the thumbnails that came up on YouTube a little while ago of someone had spotted a Wahlberg's. I'm guessing it was probably James, and he won his competition. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm assuming it's going to be a barn swallow. That's the next migratory bird I'm going to see, unless they've already been seen. Do you know, V? Barn swallows, European swallows. It might still be a little bit early for them, but the cuckoos are on their way. I had some cuckoos down in the Cape, but that's a tricky one. Sometimes they overwinter down there, so that is tricky. But yeah, the cuckoos are generally quite early to arrive, but there hasn't been any rainfall, so most of the migratory birds that arrive will come after you've had some rain, because they're all here for the insects. That's what's quite interesting to remember and bear in mind, that pretty much all of the birds that migrate up and down here, including the Wahlberg's eagle, are doing it because of the burst of insects that happen due to a lot of rainfall. And we've had no rainfall, so I think that it's going to be delayed, whoever's coming, until we get that rainfall, and then the insects will basically burst out of the seams. But for now, they're going to be slowly moving their way down from the north, but I don't think there's any rush. I think middle of October, late October, we're going to see most of them arriving. Obviously, if we are heralded or blessed with some rainfall, I shall be in the Mara that time, so it's going to be very interesting to see, because I know a lot of the birds just don't migrate, they just stay there. Okay, so we're going to be just heading up here, seeing if we can pick up on any tracks, and in the meantime it seems that Sydney and Senzo are out and they would like to say good morning to you on foot. I'm sorry, the bushwalk team is about to come out. Louise is just updating me. Sorry about that. You're still with me for the moment? Still with me. So, very good question, James. I wonder what you reckon the next migratory bird's going to be. Offhand, it's probably going to be between the swifts, the swallows and the cuckoos, my opinion. We won't be expecting a woodland kingfisher until November. European rollers as well until late October. That's when I normally remember seeing them. But it's going to be the swifts, swallows, very agile flying birds. Yeah, Louise said she heard a red-chested cuckoo in Joburg. I think sometimes they might overwinter there, because Joburg is the largest man-made forest in the world, believe it or not. And there is many a lawn, many a garden that is maintained throughout the winter and basically provided with rain, so to speak, because of the hose pipe and the sprinkler systems. So it's not uncommon to have many birds in Johannesburg that you won't find elsewhere, because they don't need to move. Just like down in the forest biome down in the Southern Cape, the garden route, I was just there recently, you get a lot of birds down there that spend the time. I heard red-chested cuckoos down there, as well as Klaas's cuckoo, but the Klaas's actually can stay. They don't need to move at all. A lot of birds can stay down there. Yellow-billed kites you'll find throughout the eastern KwaZulu-Natal section. I heard a francolin there all year long, and that's due to food. Something's calling at the pan, is it? Let me go have a little look-see. Do a little bit of a loop there, trying to pick up on any tracks that might have moved away. Okay, so Louise is saying that there's vervet monkeys alarming at the dam. They are very reliable. It's my version of it anyway. Vervet monkeys, just like us, spend the night secreted away somewhere, and then they wake up and first thing they see is probably Hosanna, and then just shout. Shame. We wake up and we're happy to see him. They wake up and they're not very happy. I'm going to assume it's him. We saw him at the dam cam last night before he headed off to bed. So I'm going to guess it's the little chief. But then, who really knows out here? Who really knows? And also bearing in mind the vervets can see quite far. I've had them from a couple 100 meters shouting. So it's important to find the vervet monkey and then have a look at their eyes and see where they're looking. Because like us, they look exactly what they're looking at. Giraffe as well. So I'm just going to switch off here and roll down in. We're going to keep our ears open. Can everybody hear? Do the kudu if you can't. I don't hear anything. Okay, well, I don't hear any vervets. Very quiet. If they've stopped, what often I've seen with Hosanna is he'll be spotted, and as soon as I spot him, he'll just duck down behind. I'm going to check behind the dam wall there. It's a place where I've had him hiding before. Have a little squiz just behind there. While we do that though, I will go and have a look at one of Hosana's favourite spots. Let's go back all the way up to the Mara Brand. What he's up to.
Well, we're still trundling down the main drag towards the river. And not much happening in this area, but the start of the migration, or the most northern parts of the migration, has been around those trees in the distance there. And let's see what's happening there. Now, we're also sort of approaching the border between the North clan of hyenas and the Olololo clan of hyenas. So sometimes you can find excited hyenas in this area. And we'll be seeing shortly what is going on. Very quiet this morning. This is the new Olololo clan den. I've seen them here a bit, but I didn't realize there's still little black hyenas here. So little ones. Hello. Hello, Hora. That's the second den site I've found in the last little while. I found one down at the Salt Lick as well. Hello, little fluff balls. Probably around 3 months old. Yeah, good sniff. He looks very fat, very well fed little hyena. Don't see any adults about. Interesting. I wonder if they've moved their den from up close to the escarpment down to here due to food availability, because from here they can make forays into the North Clan territory, and that's where the wildebeest are at the moment. No adults around, and these hyenas won't be as used to cars as North Clan and others, so we're not going to push too close to them. Interesting, though. Now, there is I've forgotten its name now, but there is an ex-North Clan member that's with the Olololos, a dispersal male who's got a collar. Good morning, Kelly. Kelly would like to know how many more migratory birds will travel through the Mara. Well, Kelly, quite interesting, you've got birds that'll travel through and past the Mara, such as the European bee-eaters and certain of the raptors. The corrugations are getting really, really bad. But you will have other migratory birds that will migrate only as far as the Mara. So, like the Warburg eagles that you see at Djuma, there are Warburg's eagles that migrate just to the Mara, and then they'll breed in the Mara. Oh, hyenas have been busy dragging something along the road. So there are birds that will migrate to the Mara and stay in the Mara and not just pass through the Mara. And there are others that will pass through. So the Warburgs have arrived already. What else has arrived? Some of the cuckoos have arrived. I heard some cuckoos a little bit yesterday around camp. But there's still quite a few migratory species to arrive. Lots, in fact. And there's still quite a few that'll just pass through. Okay. Well, it looks like the wildebeest might have headed back south again. There's not much happening around Darisha this morning. Okay, so yesterday there were herds of wildebeest and zebra all through the swampy, marshy area here. Now I see absolutely diddly squat. So they might have pushed a bit further south. Oh, and here's a kukul into the long grass. So while we continue on, Sydney has made his way out on foot, so let's go say good morning.
A very, very good morning and welcome to the beginning of the morning walk. My name is Sydney Mikosi. I am traveling with Senzo, who is my camera operator this morning, as well as Rexon, who is my game scout. We are both going to be with you on this morning game drive and on this morning guided walk, and I hope you're all going to enjoy a lot. My focus this morning is going to be the tiny little animal, but already I am excited about something. In this area, earlier on, I picked up an alarm call, and I want to start there. I want to investigate what is going on here. For your questions and comments, you can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. So I'll be checking all the tracks here and all the insects and everything that is fascinating. The very old droppings here. This might have been the droppings for the hyenas. I have got something here now to show you. I've got something here. A very good morning again. I've got something to show you here. I can see there is a scrub here, and that scrub here is looking at something. I think it's now having the last diet of the morning before they go to rest. I can see it's very much skittish at the moment. It is this area where I've picked up the alarm call. So my investigations are going to start down towards the Galago Pen area, which is the nearest water source from where we are and is serving as a central point of the animal activities. The snakes, since I have been here, I have never seen a single snake, but I have seen a couple of old and new snake tracks. I am very sure that now the snakes, they are getting excited with the kind of temperature we are getting these days. So the chances of starting to see the interesting, lovely snakes, they are getting very high. Snakes, they are my favorite reptiles. Senzo is not interested in snakes. He's saying only you, Sydney. I love snakes. They are so cute. Senzo is shaking the camera now a little bit because of the snake topic. Now, let's go to Steve, who is also out this morning, and see what Steve has got for you.
Thanks, Sydney. No, I'm not afraid of snakes myself, but I don't really like playing with them, touching them. I have had to handle snakes from time to time in the past due to the fact that they were just in people's space. But I've never needed to really grab them unnecessarily. Sorry, Vildy, there's just a nice little pretty picture off to the left-hand side. Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful day here in South Africa. The dust on the horizon produces an amazing sunrise. A moment to contemplate one's day. It's a very gentle breeze coming from the north. And other than that, pretty quiet. It is always very special and beautiful to be able to stop and watch the sunrise. I try to do it daily, not always possible. Very nice. Well, we're going to continue on Got some tracks here of a female leopard coming from the west and then headed down towards the lodge. Might do a little loop around in a second. We followed up on those tracks, not on those tracks, but on those alarm calls. But we didn't come around, didn't find anything. It's a female that's come in from the west. I'm not going to assume and say who it might be, but just because of the area, could potentially be Shadulu. I know VM has an absolute love for that cat. Before we went on leave, that's all we used to want to do, was just find Shadulu. Do you remember, V? We found her a few times on foot as well. It's a very beautiful cat. I haven't seen her in some time. Anyway, I'm going to let Rexon know about these tracks, see if he's interested to help us follow. And in the meantime, while we move on towards the west now, see if we can pick up on anything. We're going all the way up to the Mara, and it seems like Brent has been successful and found his lions.
Well, very interesting. We found two male lions. I'm not sure who they are yet. We're sort of on the boundary between Musketeer country and the Kichwa males. I don't think it's... I'm not sure who it is. I just want to go have a look at the other one, a bit closer to the other one. And so you got this boy lying here, another one on top of the termite mound. I wonder who's decided to push this far to the... Well, if it's the Kichwa boys, they've pushed very far to the south. I'm almost certain it's not Musketeers. They look too young. Especially this chap here, yeah, quite a ginger man. And so he's definitely not a Musketeer. Hey, big boy. I don't think he's a Kichwa male either. Ooh, I wonder who they could be. Now let's go back. I'm just trying to remember now. I wonder... No, it can't be. That's a bit too far for those new boys from Tanzania. Although, that car behind us. Close? Far? No car. I need to see the other side of this boy's mane. The one who's got his head down in the grass. Well, they're lying in a very wet area, so we're not going to go off the road here. Otherwise, we'll get stuck. I mean, could be a Kichwa boy. I'm not sure. It's quite difficult when their heads are down in the grass like this. A mystery to work out. And it's amazing that yesterday this area was completely covered in wildebeest and zebra. Now there is not one in sight. Looks like they've had a busy night, these boys. Mystery lions. Oh, he looks so comfortable. Not much shade around here, so they probably will move later in the morning, but it looks like they've been moving a lot overnight and they've decided to flop down. I don't think they're going to move too far today. Kevin is wondering what's the approximate weight of those male lions. Probably between 200 and 220 kilos. So for 440, 460 pounds. Oh, has he heard something? Heads up. I can't see anything in that direction at the moment. But both heads popped up. The unfortunate thing is that I can see some elephants where they're looking, that's about it, but I doubt that's what's caught their attention. The unfortunate thing is if they head in the direction that they're looking, there's zero chance we're going to be able to follow them. That's straight into the swamps. He's having a bad hair morning. Yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, see if these lions get moving. So while we do that, it sounds like Sydney's in the sunrise.
You can see the gorgeous sunrise coming out now here. This is lovely. Sunrise in Africa is never old. This is interesting. While I'm here, I can pick up quite a lot of different alarm calls. There's two different areas that has got different calls from two different species. There, where the sun is coming from, there is a squirrel which is making noise, and by the western side of here where I am, there is a francolin which is also giving an alarm call. So now, at this stage, I am very much confused with regards to which alarm call I must have to attend first. But here, I can promise you, around the Galagopen area, there is something. So I'm trying to scan the area here, but these cats, they can be very much difficult to spot from a distance because of how they get camouflaged. So I'm trying to listen very carefully to the western side and the eastern side at the same time. But I'm much more fascinated by the alarm call from the squirrel, which came from the eastern side. And right on top of this termite mound here where I am, I have got some of the evidence that things has been happening here, and I'm not too sure who caught this, but I can see that it's an old crime scene, and looking at the color of these feathers is telling me that this bird, it was the hornbill. This was the yellow-billed hornbill. So it means the yellow-billed hornbill has been caught by one of the small predators. Hornbills, they also get predated a lot by the predators such as the spotted genus, both small and large spotted genus. I've seen that. So, but also the big cats, sometimes they also catch them. So I am going to go down now and follow my game scout in order to do some trekking activities and see if we can find one of these animals that are irritating the other species to give quite a lot of alarm calls in this area. So now let's go to Steve in order to find out about more leopard tracks.
Yeah, nothing really. We've called in those female leopard tracks which are headed pretty much directly towards where Sydney and Rexon are following up. So we're going to let them do some work there for a little while, earn their breakfast, and we're going to come around and keep checking on the western side, see if maybe it's that individual has come back, or if we've maybe got some tracks of some lions that might have come in. This is a nice area for them to come in. We're on Impala Road, headed towards the western boundary of Djuma. And this is kind of an area that we often get the umkuhumas coming in and back again. But I was just asking VM when last he saw them, and he hasn't seen them since he was last year. So when do we have? March, V?
May.
He left in May, okay. So May, I was wondering if he probably wouldn't recognize the little young umkuhumas. They've grown somewhat, since then. You don't really notice when you watch them from time to time, when you don't see them for months. It's quite incredible how much weight those animals can put on in 6 months or so, 4 months. And it is still, as we talk about the lack of rain, the lack of insects, very hard going out here in the African wilderness at the moment. Very, very dry. I mean, it was dry before I left, and it's just gone and sucked itself even lower down. Very interesting. Talking last night about the adaptations of how do animals survive these droughts. Well, it's very difficult. But the strongest perpetuate, move forward, survive. In the weak, well, as you know, survival of the fittest. We do this guy here, this nice little lapwing. We often overlook these little lapwings here. The Senegal lapwing that VM's about to show you. Senegal, quite similar to the crowned, except the crown's got that very black and white head. But there's only 2 places I've ever seen the Senegal lapwing before, and that's in the Sabi Sands and in one part of Kruger National Park right up in the north. Other than that, I haven't seen them elsewhere. Their distribution is all over the Lowveld, but you don't find them as often as you do the other lapwings. With that little front on the front of his head there. Very beautiful. There we go. He's got a partner. He's doing their little dance in the open clearing. They're moving around, and in the open there's all sorts of ants and termites moving around on the floor. And they are doing what they do best. And they have long legs. They can fly, but they spend most of the time walking along the ground. And like a lot of their counterparts, they are not aquatic. The blacksmith lapwing being a lot more aquatic. These guys are always found in sort of open, disturbed, short grassy areas. That is their niche, that's their habitat where they spend their time. And you will often have them overlapping in habitat with that of the crowned lapwing. Much more common of the two. Lots of birds around on the ground here. There's another one. There's a few hornbills and starlings doing the similar insect feeding. So Sean, do you want to know why they're always seen on the ground? It's just their design. They're not a perching bird. They've actually lost their back toe, so they're not able to perch like a passerine. So what they do is they stand on the ground or might just shelter under a bush, but their objective is to basically just spend their time walking around. That's kind of the niche in the environment that they've secured. Plovers and lapwings, you often find them around the sort of water edges. Then these ones, the crowned and this one, moving around the open areas. So flying around here is not really needed too much unless they need to evade something. So they've lost the use of their back toe. It's completely disappeared. I'll show you a picture of a track in a moment, but the plovers and lapwings and thick-knees and the coursers, which spend a lot of time moving around in the open area. Coursers and thick-knees, obviously, they use the nighttime. The lapwings use the daytime. So it's that beautiful overlap of how animals fit into the landscape, and this is their habitat. That is what it is. Designed for walking, like the secretary bird, ground hornbill. They've utilized a different sort of element of the landscape, and all the other smaller birds flittering through the trees, all different hierarchies and abilities. It's all about adaptation to feeding. Okay, well, a nice little area to be checking. I wonder if there was any news just before I left. There was some stories of that cheetah family making their way back towards Djuma. Be nice to be able to find them. This is kind of a perfect area for them to spend some time if they were in and around. And our boundary is just off to the left here, and that's where they normally would have come from the Simbambile Arathusa side of things. But we're going to continue on around, keep checking. Nice to be familiarizing ourselves again with the area, seeing what's going on. Who knows what comes in from the west. You know, these sort of boundary patrols are very important for seeing what comes in and goes out. And then we'll go and give Sydney and Rex a little bit of a hand shortly and see if they've had any luck with those alarm calls. But a beautiful morning indeed. I think it is going to get quite hot again like yesterday in the high 30s Celsius. But anyway, we're going to go back again to Brent and the Masai Mara, who I believe has left his lions. I wonder what else he's got in store for you this morning.
Well, we're still just slowly heading down towards the south at the moment. We're approaching... Oh, there's a hyena running. Definitely North Clan. We're in the clan lands. I wonder why that hyena is running. What excitement has this hyena found? 2 hyenas. Oh, don't... Oh, tails are up. There's something going on. But unfortunately, it looks like it's going on in the non-off-roading side. 3 hyenas, 4 hyenas, all tails up and tearing into the bush. Where are the Northies off to? I'm going to move a little bit forward and then I'm going to listen so I can see a bit more. Lara Moore would like to know whether we see melanistic hyenas. I've never heard of one. It doesn't mean it's impossible. But leucistic hyenas, yes, but melanistic hyenas I've never heard of. Okay. They disappeared into those croton thickets there. And now often what happens in these circumstances, it could be the Magoro pride's made a kill in the bushes there and they're off to go harass them. So we're just going to keep quiet for a little bit, see if we can hear any growls or cackles or whoops. Fortunately, the most predominant sound we can hear at this very moment is a tractor. Just going to wait for it to go past. So the Mara Conservancy guys are working very hard at the moment while we have this dry spell to get all the roads fixed before the rains come. So let's wait for the tractor to just move off a little bit and maybe we can hear a little bit better. It's amazing how the sounds of vehicles... Oh, there's another fat hyena running in. So there's definitely something going on. That's the 5th North Clan member we've had charging through into this area. So fat. So fat. Wobble belly, wobble, 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 wobble. And go try fill it some more, are you? You can see how dry it is for the Mara. Is that the dust coming off? The dust coming off as she runs. So there is definitely something going on in this area. I can't hear anything, unfortunately. Again, vehicles dominating my ears. Okay, I'm going to try and wait for all these cars to go past so I can have a good listen. In the meantime, let's send you back to Steve.
The traffic of the Masai Mara. Lots of vehicles there, shame. We are here, as you can see. We are inundated with traffic on this Tuesday morning. It is very busy. We haven't seen a single thing. Well, a single human or vehicle. Very difficult way to start the day, I must say. I know a lot of my friends are quite envious of my lack of traffic. It's about 30 meters from my room. From my room to my vehicle is about 30 meters. And sometimes someone's parked in front of me, James or Tristan or someone, and that's about it. So not a bad place to be from a traffic perspective. I've got friends who are living in Johannesburg and they wake up every morning and sit in 45 minutes to an hour traffic just to get to work. I don't think I could ever do that. But could you do that, V?
What?
Sit in traffic?
I did it. Been there, done that.
Yeah, he's been there, he's done that. Not my sort of thing. But I think if I did get into it again, I'd probably learn a language. You know, you've got an hour and a half, 45 minutes every day. You could have a Spanish disc playing and just...
Trust me, I've learned the language.
VM said he's learned the language. What language is that, VM?
Can't say that on air.
Yeah, VM says he can't say his language on air. He's learned that very verbal, rude language. Only a few syllables. So I definitely would take the time to invest into something. Or I know ebooks are quite popular these days. You could listen to stories. That would work. At least it eliminates that time sitting in traffic, hitting the... How many of you out there can relate to that? Shame. Let us know. Hashtag SafariLive. Drop on the YouTube chat. Traffic. How is your traffic this morning or this evening? Well, we are still checking for tracks. It's pretty quiet. There's some hyena tracks coming in. Bushwalk team from yesterday. Have I lost my way? I have. I'm never lost for very long. You want to know if I've lost my way in the Kruger Park? Well, there's that story of you're never lost, you're just temporarily disorientated. I've been temporarily disorientated in Djuma once or twice in the beginning, but it's generally at night that happens, when you can't really see sort of certain landmarks. Everything looks quite different at night. But I was following lions once in the Kruger Park, and I followed lions, and they were hunting, and they hunted, and they moved, and they don't go in a straight line all the time. And I remember after they hunted, it was time for us to get back, and those blocks were quite big, 3,000-4,000 hectare blocks. It's almost like the half the size of Djuma, just one block there. And you've just got to basically go. And I know the Southern Cross had kind of dipped down below the horizon. All I had was two of the pointers at an angle, and you're like, okay, all you got to do now is you got to go straight. You can't be turning and trying to. And it's such a nice feeling when you suddenly come out and you hit the road. Yeah. But you've always it's important as a guide, if you do get lost, just to tell your guests, get them involved with the fact that I'm a bit disorientated right now, but not a problem, because they can start seeing the change in your behavior. They can start seeing the sort of the agitation as you scan left and right for any sort of clue. Get them involved, try to figure out some form of direction with the planets or the stars. Ah, Kalina, what a fantastic idea. You get stuck in traffic for 30 minutes each way and she listens to SafariLive. Well, isn't that marvelous? I had a guest a while ago, and they're actually landowners here at Buffelshoek, at Torchwood, and he said that his grandchildren go to school every day with SafariLive iPads in front of them. So that's a good way to get your kids to school. Educational for the most part. So I'm glad, Kalina, we can alleviate some of your traffic stress. Music, yes, I think that's the go-to for a lot of people, is music. How many of you out there are learning languages or listening to business courses or anything like that? I remember a long time ago going on a holiday with some friends and we listened to an audiobook back in the day when it was cassettes. Do you people remember cassettes? You know you were born in the 80s or earlier when you know what a pencil is used for with the cassette. Louise says she's still got cassettes. Wow, Lou, did you inherit those from your grandparents? We used to listen to those. Remember, it would go to the one side and you have to pull it out and click it in again. I don't think any of the millennials really know what a cassette is. Back in the day with a pencil and you'd wind it up. We're going back a long time now. Going back a long, long time. Yes, I can remember that too. Louise remembers recording songs off the radio onto cassettes, which was always quite fun. I don't think you can do that anymore at all. I'm not sure. I'm digitally challenged. I'm in the area of CDs and cassettes, and everything these days is just getting a bit too technical. But anyway, that's why we have youngsters around. I remember being in, where was I? I think I was in France, and this old couple came up to me with an iPhone, and they wanted me to help them with the iPhone. And I had no idea. I'm not an iPhone person, I'm an Android. And this old couple asked me about it. And so I was like, well, I don't know. And they said, well, we need your help. And then I said, well, there's a 14-year-old. Go ask them. And lo and behold, the 14-year-old just did all of these things, and there it was working. So, yeah, kids today, they figure it all out very quickly. Very, very quickly. Luke, who's directing here, actually, if any of you remember him, blessed be Luke. He's gone now, but we still love him dearly. He was telling me he was reading a book with his nephew. His nephew was sitting on his lap with a proper book, folks. You know, the book with the numbers and the lines and the letters all typed out, and the nephew's going like this on the page, trying to make it bigger. We are living in a sad time now when youngsters don't even know books. They think a book is something they can zoom in on, like an iPad. Hopefully we will not lose the intelligence we've developed over many, many centuries. As Einstein said, technology will be the death of intelligence. Taylor, Craig and Louise took 45 minutes to figure out a TV remote. Yes, technically challenged. Technically challenged we are. It's all changed so quickly. So having a young teenager around is very helpful, because they just sort out anything for you in moments. Moments. I got siblings that are 16, and they're far smarter than me. I send them all those questions I'm not 100% sure about. But anyway, enough of my nonsense talking. We're going to be carrying on, checking the northern boundary now. Let's go back over to Sydney and see if he's had any luck with those alarm calls.
I am now following the alarm call, and I think the Francolins got it, because after the Francolins on the very same area, I started hearing a lot of bugs giving alarm calls. So now I am walking much more towards the western side of the game reserve, which is where we are going to find one of the cats here, because we saw the tracks. This leopard is here. We're just not too sure where exactly, but there is a leopard here where we are now. So this leopard is walking against the dry river bed, and is walking very fast. So it's quite very much thick here, and I'm depending on all these animals around here on alarm calls. So when the animals are quiet, it becomes very difficult, because the grass is too high here, and to see the tracks here on this kind of grasses is difficult. You can see that if the leopard pass here, I'm not going to see the tracks at all. So you can see that Rex is right in front of me, trying to reallocate the tracks. Yes, we're not too sure what exactly this animal is. We're not too sure which cat is this one. But the tracks are so convincing. We are very sure that this cat is somewhere here. So we are not far away from the border now. We have been following the tracks all the way down from the Galago Pan, and now we are heading towards the border between us and Buffalo's Hook. So we just want to make sure that we get to the border before this animal trespasses. Safari Sally, when trekking a leopard, what you've got to remember the most is to consider the wind direction and also to walk according to the available cover. So I can see now there's some impalas right up there on the other side of the drainage line, which might also delay this leopard a little bit. So it means now the chances of the leopard to trespass, they are getting much low. He or she might fall in love with the impalas now. The bush is very much thick here where we are. So we're just going to try and check the border and see if it's not yet to the other side, and then cross back and see if we can again check this other side. So the alarm calls are very quiet at the moment, so it means he's already gone past those animals which were making a lot of noise. Oh, there's some kudus right in front, also very inquisitive. Given the leopards, they are like the lions. It's very much rare for this kind of cats to attack human beings. Why? Because when seeing us, they don't feel threatened. They are very much comfortable with our presence in the area due to the fact that here in Juma, we don't conduct the hunting activities. But if we start conducting hunting activities, it's then that the biggest threat of these leopards is going to be us. And every time they see us, there's going to be a challenge. So we have not yet spotted anything, and then we're just trying to check. We're going to cross the drainage line now to get to the other side. Big Rich, the leopards, they haven't done that yet here in Juma, but the cats, they normally do that. Let me tell you this story. This happened to me a while ago while I used to work for the Marakele National Park, which is a park under the South African National Parks. It's a park which is located approximately 180 kilometers away from Johannesburg. While I was there, at one stage, I got stuck in mud. I was following the 6 lions, and these 6 lions were just about 15 meters away from my vehicles in front, and I got stuck. I had to grab my rifle, got off the car, and pull my high lift jack in order to try and jack the vehicle so that I can, because my diff lock and everything, it was working, but the vehicle was bogged down in mud. So I had to jack the vehicle with my rifle, and as I was doing that, I asked my guest to remain in the car. I was jacking the vehicle with them inside. And then one of my clients spotted the lion now coming back to try and check me. And when looking behind me, that lion was less than 7 meters. But he didn't do anything. He was just behind the available cover. He saw me, I saw him, and then he decided to leave. So leopards, I'm not sure, but cats can do that. So now, let's go back to Brent, who got some lions in the Masai Mara this morning.
Well, we found the Magoro ladies, even though they are quite flat and fat. They're probably not going to stay here too long. They obviously have been busy over the last few days. The wildebeest have been around. There's still a few scattered wildebeest close to them, but quite far. So what I think we might do is come back here later on in the morning and maybe wait here during the day to see if these herds of wildebeest come towards where they are. The closest herds are just about 500-600 meters away. But definitely not as many wildebeest around as there were in the last couple of days. It seems like quite a few of them have headed south. And that's going to be the norm for the next little while. I think the wildies are going to start heading back towards Tanzania. Okay, let's leave these lazy Magoros. Let's go see if there's anything around the crossings. Kevin would like to know, is there a risk for the predators eating meat that's a few days old? No, Kevin, they will eat meat that is a week old, 10 days old, rotten, putrefying, slippery, slimy, green, snotty meat. They are designed to do that. Human beings can even eat rotten meat as long as it's cooked. Doesn't taste very nice, but you can if you have to. So, no, there is no threat to the predators eating meat that's a few days old. Or even, as I say, 2 weeks old. Okay, well, we continue on to see what else we can find. Let's send you back to Steve and a traffer-legged.
Indeed, a traffer-legged, the largest, tallest. Look at it, it's the tallest kudu I've ever seen. It is perched on top of a termite mound, and you can see its eyes are looking down, its ears are looking or moving in one direction, and now it's lost interest. We stopped to have a look. Why would a kudu be perched atop a termite mound, and then sneaking through the bushes away from it was a duiker? So he probably spotted, or she probably spotted the duiker and thought, what is that thing? It's not just the antelope. We also get confused sometimes when we see duikers. Just their movement, shape, size, especially at night, can quite often be mistaken for a leopard or a moving cat. We found some pretty fresh leopard tracks. I can tell you that they are definitely from after 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, because we drove this road yesterday and they're on top of our tracks of a male leopard. When we were at Vuatela Pan last night, VM heard faint calling from a distance. I didn't hear it, but very likely of whoever this might be. So I'm going to continue on down here. I don't think there's anything here pressing at the moment that's disturbing the kudus apart from that duiker. So we'll move on a little bit further forward, see if we can find out exactly where these tracks might have gone. Maybe this is the individual that's causing the alarms to be sounded around Galago. I'm kind of headed in that sort of direction there. It does get a little bit tricky a little bit further along on this road because it gets quite gravelly and sandy. Oh, Mandy, you want to know a very interesting question. Do you want to get that kudu again, V? That's quite a nice light there. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Mandy, I'll show you the difference between a young lion and a leopard track. It's actually very easy to discern. To the casual observer, it's not very easy to discern, but what's very important to have a look at, and always measure your tracks. Always measure the tracks. If you ever have a picture of a track, take it with something as reference, a matchbox or a knife, or I use my Leatherman, or on the side of the book, the tracking book that we have, there's a little ruler. So the size of the track is very important. All cat tracks have got a very similar shape and design, but a lion's track, well, it's just that much bigger. If we have a look at a leopard track over here, the biggest male leopard track you're going to come across is about 10 centimeters or so. 10 centimeters. Sometimes it might look about 11 or so due to the substrate, but that is as big as it's ever going to get. Whereas a lion track, if you have a look at even a small youngster, a young male, 13 centimeters. So if the track's over 11, 12 centimeters, it's definitely not a leopard. And that is one of the easiest ways to do it. And often you'll find lions are walking in a pride. So you might find lion cub tracks, which can be the same size as a leopard. But what you find in lion tracks as well is that they're quite wide. They're quite wide, so if you find lion cub tracks, it's quite tricky to find or to identify, but then invariably they're going to be following much larger tracks of a female, or that is a male. Let's go to the female at the bottom. You're going to be following the much larger tracks of a female. So you don't find leopards normally walking in large groups of 3 or 4 or 5, but you will find lions doing something like that. But it's something to pay attention to, because you can, if you do find a young lion track, you can think that it is a leopard. So you need to really look at it and measure it. But as I said before, if it's over the 13 or the 11 centimeter mark, it's by no means can it be a leopard. Leopard on steroids, perhaps. But a very good question. Very good question. See if we've still got them here. Yeah, there they are. Not very clear in the substrate. The substrate's quite gravelly, quite sandy, so you can just kind of make it out. It's just on the left-hand side of the vehicle track there. And definitely a territorial patrol, so you can assume that this is a territorial male, because they'll walk along common boundaries like this. It's a big game path for them. And VM reckoned he heard one calling last night from this general direction. So just from the tracks and from the area, you'd have to assume that it is very likely Tingana, but I don't want to say names right now. It is a male leopard. He's heading in that direction. We're going to see if we can get any closer. Hello, Big Rich. You want to know if we can identify individual cats? Well, you know, Hukumuri's got this very particular kind of toe, this little hook on his toe that Rexon and Herbie showed me. But it's very hard, you know. You find tracks in an area, and I will always go and say male or female, young male, whatever it might be. But to identify exactly the individual, it's tricky. It's tricky. It's not easy to go by. These leopards do move. I know the very, very experienced trackers would be able to put their head down and tell you exactly who it is. But end of the day, I find it very difficult to identify the difference between individual males. VM's still got the tracks on our left-hand side. VM is a very, very good tracker. I'm sure he's very happy to be back from the Mara and able to spend time with nose on the ground, aren't you, V? Yeah, boy, yeah, boy. That's one thing you don't seem to see in the Mara, much tracking going on, because you just look for a distance and you find all the animals. So, you know, we drove this road last night, and that's why you can tell the freshness. That herd of buffalo went that way and came back again, and their tracks are over ours again. There's some fresh dung in the road. This is probably the nastiest piece of road on the property. Oh, sorry. It's a little bit bumpy. You gotta hold on. No, it didn't hurt. Just a little bump. So lots of buffalo. I mean, if I just roll back slightly, a lot of people will be like, but how can you find buffalo? I mean, if you look in the road ahead of us, all of that is buffalo dung, and all of it around there is buffalo tracks. A buffalo breeding herd is probably the easiest of the big five to follow, because they just move this huge mass of tracks and dung, a moving manure system. Very important for the ecosystem, because the disturbance that the hooves create turn up and churn the soil, and at the same time they're depositing much needed organic material onto the ground, which is then obviously a house for lots of insects. There's seeds in there as well, organic material, which is so important for the re-establishment of the vegetation layer. Part and parcel of the savanna ecosystem. And I'm sure we're going to start seeing some dung beetles in the next little while. They're also waiting, some of them are waiting for the rains, because the rains will wetten and soften the ground, and that'll then encourage them to come out of their cocoons within the ground in their big balls of poo. But not just yet, soon. But anyway, we're going to luck that side.
I can see now that the tracks, they are very, very much fresh. I'm just going to draw a line here so that you can easily see. So this track is coming from this direction, going towards this side. So you can see here it's looking very fresh. The track is not disturbed by anything and is heading towards the border between us and Buffelshoek. It means we're just behind this leopard. So why I'm saying this track is very fresh is because of the following. If you can check here, this track is not disturbed by anything. So there's quite a lot of insects that show us the signs, because some of the insects, you'll see them walking on top here. Small insects can disturb this. And apart from the insects, the wind can also do like this. You can see now that that track is not looking fresh anymore. The fine particles, they are all blown. So it means now it's looking old. So this is a fresh track. It's not old yet. It is just now looking old because of my interference. So now we are going to carry on and see what else we can find in the area. We just got to expect unexpected. We might find something interesting. We might find another cat as well. Stormy, the different cats can share the territory. I know a lot of people, they do have a confusion between a territory and a home range. But a territory is mainly for mating and breeding. And if the two completely different species cannot interbreed, there is no problem for them to stay together. However, the challenge now is going to be just food competition, but has got nothing to do with mating and breeding. So the interesting thing I have seen with regards to these territorial activities is what happens to the insects and as well as the arachnids. If you can check the spiders, spiders are very much well gifted because each one of them, the females, they're designed in such a way that they've got a special sexual organ which only fit that animal of that species. So they've got a very special epigynom, which is a copulatory organ for these spiders. So that one, I'm sure they don't have any stress. So, but when it comes to food, they have got to challenge each other for that. So I can see now that somewhere much more towards the southern side of the game reserve, there's some noise that I'm hearing. It seems like some of the big animals are walking here, pushing down some of the small trees. I'm just going to go deep in there and see. Maybe it's a herd of buffaloes. Who knows? Because there's quite a lot of evidence here on the ground showing that the buffaloes has been in this area last night. And all the tracks are just going down towards the Galago Pen area. So maybe we might be lucky with them because I can hear the branches are breaking somewhere this side. So Rexon, I just picked up some noise from this direction. If maybe we can try and have a look, maybe we might be lucky with something. So now we are going to try and investigate the other call, which is just the branches which has been breaking down in this area here. So the impalas are very much relaxed at the moment. So it means these cats didn't even bother to target any of the impalas here. So now let's go to Brent, who is now at the river, and see what he's going to get. There are too much crocodiles in that area of Masai Mara.
Well, more lions. We can't really see. I think they're just cleaning. It's the Paradise Pride on the opposite bank at Main South. So they're going to be waiting in ambush today. But no animals building around the crossings just yet on the opposite bank. We do have some wildebeest on our side. Jasmine is wondering, how do we identify lions and lionesses? At that sort of distance, well, first things first, you look at the area that you're in. So prides are territorial. Now, sometimes the prides can move a long way out of their natal territories, but normally, or their pride territories. Males are a bit easier to identify than lionesses because of manes, and each of them have different types of manes and generally have quite a lot more scars and whatnot. You look for nicks in the ears, any prominent scar. You can use whisker spots, but that's very, very difficult and time consuming, and you need a very good close-up of the lions to do that. But there are various different means. But for something like that, I know the pride that lives in this area, so I assume it's the Paradise Pride, and I don't think I'm wrong on this one. So these wildies have been keeping us guessing for the last few days, walking up to the river, looking like they're going to cross, they're not crossing. There we go. Hello, gnus. Munching away. Now, Scar hasn't been seen for a few days, but he could very much easily be in that area we're looking at now, the non-off-roading zone. He does spend a lot of time in there. Funny looking things, the gnus. Oh, there's someone deciding to run in front of us across the road. Should be coming to join. There we go. Little jog. Heading away from the crossings. Actually hear their feet on the ground. And you can see those white beards with the sun shining through. White bearded gnus. Now the original... Hang on, something's going on. Why are those topi charging? Is there a crossing going on? Hang on, I think that might... It's dust over there. Let's have a look. Do these topi look wet? I might have been a small topi crossing while we were sitting with the wildebeest. We'll have a look now. Do these topis look wet and shiny, or are they just chasing each other about from the river? You look wet? Nah. Does not look wet. I mean, they're just chasing each other about. Okay, well, let's keep moving for a bit. See what else we can find. Mambo! Let's head down towards Dusty, see what we can see there. Big Rich is asking how large the lion prides are on average in this area. I'd say on average you're looking at about 5 to 6 females in a pride, not counting sub-adults and youngsters. So the core of the pride. The bigger prides can go up to 8, 9 adult females, sometimes even 10 adult females. But I'd say on average, the core of the pride, just the adult females, you're looking at 4 to 6 individuals in a pride. Now, of course, when you talk about prides, we're not including the sub-adults and the cubs. and only once they get to adult stage, that's when you actually can sort of really call it a pride. So, for example, that's the biggest pride down south. There's 9 adult females, but there's 22 in the pride with all the youngsters and sub-adults. Okay, I'm gonna keep heading down towards the river. Maybe we'll get some luck with good old Scar. In the meantime, let's go see how Steve's morning is treating him.
Thanks, Brent. Yes, well, look what we have found. We have found at least 2 southern ground hornbills moving through what is the firebreak, so there's this northern boundary section between Djuma and Bovelsoek. And they are walking around on the ground, just like the lapwings we talked about earlier, in search of food. Obviously the name ground hornbill, meaning they move around on the ground, but they haven't lost that back toe like a lot of other ground walking birds do. And they still have the same type of foot structure as that of the normal hornbills, but they do spend most of their time walking through especially old burnt areas, agricultural land, grassy areas, looking for all sorts of insects, frogs, lizards, even snakes and rodents. Another one of the slowly to be success stories of EWT. They are trying lots and lots of things to try and get their numbers back up. Ground hornbill has an enormous territory and are very slow growing and slow breeding birds. Can live up to into the 40s. Can you believe that? 40, 45 years of age, and there he goes, he's disappearing. And they reckon they only introduce a new youngster into the population successfully every 10 years, which is very slow reproduction. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of the large mammals around the world disappeared, was because of their slow reproductive rates. And that's what's happening with the hornbill, the southern ground hornbill. Habitat loss and destruction and poor recruitment into the population just leads to a downward spiral in your population. Doesn't necessarily mean there's anything weak or wrong with the adults, it's just their breeding strategy is very slow. You see similar things with whales, they breed slowly. Lots of other large extinct species in the past. Any pressure and just down they go. Well, we're right up on the north, as I said. Rex and Sydney are not far behind us there on tracks of that female. I think it was a female leopard. Kalina, they do look like a turkey. They do. They're very similar to turkeys. But we don't have them for Christmas dinner out here, being a rare and endangered bird. So we're checking our northern boundary. The tracks of that male leopard that we were following moved towards the north and then it disappeared. So we come around, see maybe if he's still inside the property. Maybe he's having a bit of interaction with whatever the female that Rexon is busy tracking. That would be nice to see. Sorry Lou, I didn't quite copy that. Oh no, the ground hornbill is not a relative that I know of to a turkey. They are taxonomically very, very, very different. I'm going to have to think about exactly how different. I'm going to have to think very hard about that. I think turkeys are more closely related to galliforms than to hornbills, but that's a good question. Very, very good question. I'm going to have to look into that deeper. Kalina, here we go. Here are the tracks of that male leopard. Okay, well here are the male leopard tracks, headed straight down the road. Not the easiest of things. Can you see any there, V? There we go. There they are. So it's the same tracks of the leopard we were following right on the northern boundary. So we'll turn around and keep going, see if we can get any better. very characteristic behavior of a territorial moving cat, moving along these very sort of prominent game paths being the road. I didn't see him moments before. Is it still there, V?
Yeah.
Still moving. So it's gone into the north there. Sorry. It's the strangest thing. I'll explain to you now why I'm not hearing Louise very well. You go away for 2-3 weeks and you don't put an earpiece in your ear, and parts of the ear close. It's the weirdest thing. I have these high volumes of Louise's discussion, then it disappears altogether. It was working quite nicely, and now suddenly she's asking me all sorts of questions, and I'm just not quite copying. I'm terribly sorry, Lou. I can try again though. Some old wild dog tracks there. Big Rich, you want to know about tracking devices on animals out here? We don't necessarily have any of them. The buffalo throughout the Kruger National Park have got, not all of them, but a number of the herds have got collars on them for the purposes of their movements and working out how lions move in response to them, and then that's looking at the TB and the disease. And so that's something that's a big research project in the Kruger. I'm not sure whether they've got any cheetah or wild dog collared, but that is something that's quite common in a lot of reserves for high profile animals like that. They want to be able to find them, and also if they escape they want to be able to find them again. But with regards to collars here in this area, not really. Not really. Some elephants might be found with them, but it's a similar sort of thing. Research done by the Save the Elephants, an organization years ago, to try and work out the movements and distance that elephants travel. So every now and again you might find an elephant with a radio collar, but that's not for our purposes to go out and find him. Those are actually GPS collars that are constantly sending through a feed to researchers, and gives the idea of exactly where and how these animals are moving. But we have to find all of our animals by sheep. Herd of animals that are quite relaxed and on indicating that there is no sign of a leopard pressingly anywhere nearby. Small family of Nyala with a young male at the back there. As we were closing down last night, we heard some Nyala calling from the west, the northeast, sort of, maybe sort of this direction. They make that very loud whoa, whoa. I'm not going to do it now. I don't want to scare them. Poor guys. Spend their whole night trying to avoid leopards, and then suddenly I'm going to start impersonating their alarm call. That's just not very nice. Oh, sorry, Lou. This earpiece is really giving me, my ear is giving me a really hard time. I'm sorry. It seems to just have closed up again, which is the strangest thing. Okay. Louise wants to know if Nyalas make any other sounds. If any of you watched the small video on the dam cam the other morning of Hosanna playing with that young Nyala, well, they make bleating sounds and they make bellows. I've never heard them make any other sound than that and snorting. I know Impala make little grunts when they're in their herds, but I've never heard Nyala making a similar sort of grunt. But I'm sure they have the capability to do so. It's just not something I've really noticed. They are pretty quiet by nature, but when a Nyala does, whoa, well, then you know something's going on. It's worth having a little investigation, going and checking it out. Well, on the leopard front, no tracks seem to have come back in, so we're thinking that whoever that was might have gone north. Might have gone north. I'm going to continue on towards Buffelshoek Dam, see what's going on that side. Okay, well, it seems like Sydney's finally had some luck this morning with a big 5 animal. Let's go and see which one.
I am so very lucky with the buffaloes, as I have indicated earlier on that I did pick up something in this area, and I was suspecting the buffaloes. I got a very big herd of buffaloes. Now we can only saw those big ones lying down there, but a lot of them, they are also on the other side there. I can see them standing very far away from where we are. It's just that we cannot manage to get much closer to the big herd because they are now divided or splitted into different few groups. So we might find ourselves in trouble. We don't want to find ourselves in the middle of this buffalo herd. You can see at the moment these buffaloes are very much relaxed. One of them is standing there. I'm sure maybe it's just about the investigation purposes or something, but the wind is on our favor at the moment. They are not worried at all about our presence, and they are not even aware of our presence at the moment. Sarah, the buffaloes are not territorial. So these kind of animals can just go anywhere and everywhere. And a herd is normally consisted of quite a lot of females as well as a lot of males. But amongst these males, we've got a group which is consisted of the pathfinders. The pathfinders are those ones that you normally see walking in front. Reason for them to walk in front is to be responsible of things such as safety, and also they protect the little ones and the females behind. So in other words, the head of the buffaloes does not have a specific leader. It's just few males which are responsible. But I think it's good to be a pathfinder. Why? Because you've got a better chance for better grazing. Because walking in front gives you an opportunity to feed on nutritious grass first. People, yeah, no, I am trying. The thing is, I have been working in the bush for quite a long time now. It's almost 11 years. So I've been interacting with the big five animal for quite a long time. Yes, I don't have to lose respect on these animals. They are wild animals, and wild animals are always unpredictable. So I can see that these buffaloes, they are aware about our presence. How the one standing is moving the ears is telling me that they know. It's just that they are not too sure. And the wind is on their favor. So you can see now that the wind is blowing towards their favor. You can see the dust. So they are fully aware about our presence here. So they got quite a lot of oxpeckers there. So these buffaloes, we found them because they were breaking branches, and some, they were even giving some of the calls, such as snorting. So it means these buffaloes had quite a lot of food last night, if now they are starting to do what is called rumination. These are part of the ruminants, whereby when the weather is good for them to feed, they go out for feeding purposes, and come these early mornings when the sun is getting much stronger, they start to chew some cud, which is a process called rumination. So these are very big animals. They can weigh up to 800 to a ton kilograms, which means these kind of animals needs quite a lot of energy in order to push this big body size. You can see how that one is trying to investigate us. So now let's go to Steve, who got the interesting hippopotamus.
We do. We have found an animal out of the water. We are not far from Buffelshoek watering hole. Now we just turned in and we're on our way there, and VM spotted this gentle giant just sitting there, well, standing there, not moving, trying to figure out what to do with itself, I suppose. Is this Scuba Steve, I wonder? Could be. This is his area, although we haven't seen him in some time. I believe he was in Buffelshoek watering hole yesterday, coming back and realizing he can't submerge himself. And we were talking about potentially dangerous animals yesterday, and encountering a hippo like this out of water is a very risky business. They are temperamental and very unpredictable. And you see that he doesn't move. He's just sort of standing there with his nose to the ground. Reptilian research, I don't know if he's sleeping. Well, he was looking at us a moment ago. I think he's standing there waiting for some cue to tell him to either go back to the water or to move in another direction. Or maybe he thinks we can't see him. But hippos don't really sleep standing up. They can have a little bit of a snooze, I suppose. But I think generally when they sleep, they really tuck their legs in underneath themselves and have a little lie down. It is becoming morning, so it'll be a day of slumber for this hippo. And he's been out all night foraging and feeding, trying to fill his enormous belly. Well, Peter Jen, the reason he's out the water is he's probably on his way back from feeding, or he's still feeding. It's not very hot yet, so it's generally the temperature that forces these animals back into the water, or the sunshine, so the sunshine and temperature combined. But also, he's on his way towards this watering hole, and maybe he's already been there and realized that there's not enough water in it, so he needs to find another one. And we've come across him, and maybe he's now being a little bit shy. So it's not uncommon to find hippos out of the water in winter times. Also, there's less forage around, so they have to go further to get as much food or that they normally would get. So I'm sure he's probably either going to move down and wet himself just in this watering hole here, or move somewhere else. We'll go have a look at the watering hole now and see how dire his chances are, really. So he didn't move when I started the car there. But knowing the state of this watering hole and a hippo like this, you'd be very careful how you behave around him, especially on foot. In the vehicle, well, you've also got to be careful. But there's not the animal you want to come across when you're walking in the wilderness. I'd much rather come across a herd of buffalo than a hippo out of the water, that's for sure. And the hippos don't make any noise when they're out the water, they just stand there. Or just walk. So you have to be very aware of what's going on. See through the bushes around them. Wow, look how low the water level is. And it's very, very low. Here we are at Buffelshoek. Show you in a moment. Hello, Chitty Chatty Meg. A very good question. I mean, invariably, the animals are out all the time. It's just about finding them. So, like, for example, we did a little night drive last night with some guests we have in camp. We didn't see too much, but the animals are around. You know, I think there was a question asked, like, why didn't we see so many things? They're around. You've just got to find them. The reality of it is in the daytime. So here we go. There's a duiker. Ooh, he's very quiet. Look at him. Haven't seen me yet. There we go, look how he steps. And his back feet step exactly where his front feet stepped. I think it's a girl, actually. My bad. No, well, it's hard to tell. They've always got a little spike on the top of their head. A little mohawk, as you will. So the animals are out and about. They don't have anywhere to go, really, but it's about finding them. So, you know, I always prefer sunrises. Sunrises because it's a new dawn, you know. There's a new palette for the morning. And you can find the tracks of animals coming in and out, whereas in the afternoon, you invariably go back to animals you've potentially found that morning. So it's much of a muchness. I think in winter, mornings and afternoons can be quite similar. And in summer, it's mainly early mornings and then afternoons. Well, by the time we're finishing, it's only starting to cool down in summer, and the animals are invariably just sleeping and doing their thing. Or if you come to watering holes like this one, is that Winston over there? I think that might be Winston. I think Taylor wanted to meet Winston Churchbill yesterday. Very aptly named. Yeah, he's running towards us in search of whatever delicacies we might be able to feed him. A southern yellow-billed hornbill. doesn't walk as delicately as the ground hornbill we saw, but you can see nonetheless that they're still able to walk on the ground. One of those nice adaptations. He's now going to come right in front of the car. There we go. Is he going to come towards my door? Come, Winston. we now can't move. We are caught by a hornbill in front of the car. Anyway, he's not going to go too far. So here we are at the watering hole, and this is the place to look for animals. I have to pay my toll, says Louise. There's some nyala on the other side. So invariably, I think that Chitichotimeg winter is the best time to find animals, purely because the water is less available, and the animals have to come to the water, and the vegetation is much less dense. So when I look around here, you can actually spot animals moving through. You can see some nyala moving there, more nyala on the other side. But in summertime, those animals would be completely invisible. So they're still around, but in summer they're more spread out because of the availability of water. Hello, Winston. Winston giving us his call. Winston and his partner. Winston is right down here by my feet, whereas his partner is a little bit further away, doing the typical hornbill territorial dance. Here they go. That is a duet performed by the breeding pair, and I don't quite understand its method because it's not frightening. It doesn't look scary in any way. But it's just a unison, the call in unison, male and the female. Very interesting nonetheless. Nothing for you, Winston. He's going to go and harass VM at the back. VM does actually always generally have snacks, don't you, V?
Not today.
Not today. Okay, well, we're going to move around to the other side. Let's go and see what we have on that side of the watering hole. And the hornbills are starting to demarcate their breeding territories, as summer will be approaching shortly. Spring is approaching, or is here. The insects and the fruits that will be coming forward will provide the nourishment for their chicks. And they are cavity nesters. They nest in cavities in dead trees. Very specialized breeding, in fact. Okay, well, we're going to park up here, see if we can find anything of interest, and in the meantime, let's go back over to Sydney and his bovids.
I am still here with a herd of buffaloes, and I can see that at this stage these buffaloes are very much relaxed. They are not disturbed by anything, and they are not worried about our presence at all. You can even hear that when I'm talking, I'm not even whispering, I'm just talking as normal. So these kind of animals, they probably got a very good hearing ability, but eyesight is very poor, and sense of smell is very excellent. Earlier on, I demonstrated the wind direction. Wind direction is going towards where they are at the moment, so they are very sure that we are here at the moment. So these animals are very much water dependent, but by this time of the morning, they will go and rest, and maybe before they rest, they might now go towards the Galagopen area or any other nearest water hole for drinking purposes before they relax for the day. So if you can check, this kind of hot weathers is causing them to dehydrate too much, and moving long distances in search of better grazing as well contribute a lot towards the loss of water from the body. Chris, the oldest buffalo I have seen, it was about 18 years old. And this buffalo, I saw it by one of the areas in Waterberg. Waterberg is one of the districts within the Limpopo province, which is one of the 9 provinces in South Africa. And that one, he was very well equipped with a very big boss. And you could see that this buffalo is beautiful. They can be very beautiful animals. But also this one, if you look at the horns, they look very good. So if you look at the skin, the side of the bodies, if you don't know the buffaloes very well, And if you don't understand their behavior, you might even think they've got a skin problem. You might even think they've got mange because of too much mud on the side of the bodies, which can confuse you because you will see those kind of patches around their bodies. So this animal has got quite a very strong keratin on these horns. But this keratin can also get decomposed. Some of the insects, they only deal specifically with the keratins of these horns, and keratins consisting the hoofs. They are called the horn borer moth. Horn borer moth can be able to eat the keratin from the buffalo horn completely until it's finished. But it's very hard. It's a very hard keratin. Colonel, I have got different heads at the moment, but the closest head we have got now, it has got about 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there are approximately 7 buffaloes right in front of me. But apart from that, if you can check, now is somewhere deep in the thick bushes, much more towards the western side of the game reserve, which is also the western side of these buffaloes, considering where the sun is coming from. There is quite a very big head. So this is part of the biggest head, which is close to 100 that we have seen on the past couple of days. So the oxpeckers, you can see those oxpeckers are flying much more towards the direction of the west. So those oxpeckers are going towards some of the family members. So from here to there, we can easily now use the oxpeckers in order to navigate where the other family members are at the moment. So the oxpeckers are all flying much more towards the western side. So it means that is where the biggest head is heading to at the moment. So oxpeckers are good indicators of the presence of the buffaloes. So I will be here now still looking at these buffaloes. But let's go to Brent, who is still around one of the rivers in the Masai Mara.
Well, we've come down to... Oh, there we go. What's that? You see where you were, Manu? In that little bush down at the bottom to the right. There we go. What do we got? It's just a dark-capped bauble. We've come down to the river to see what birds we can see. I was hoping we might get a few interesting species. But here we go. Hello. Lapwing, spur-winged lapwing. I think they are incredibly pretty, the lapwings. And there we've got some Egyptian geese. Waking up after a cold morning. Very peaceful here at the river's edge. And geese having a morning drink. And of course we've got old Scar's nemesis off to the other side of us, looking as grumpy and belligerent as usual. Quite a few of them. You can see the wildebeest in the background and the old buffalo bulls that like to hang about the edge of the river amongst the croton thickets. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. There's a good 4 or 5 of them around this area, and these are the ones that I've actually seen chase Scar face before. Oh, Manu, in front of me, there's that one stick sticking out. I saw something land there. What is that? I think it's another dark-capped bulbul. Yeah, it is. It's a bulbul. Oh, still lovely next to the river. Lovely little rapid up at the top there where Manu's having a look. Oh, Manu spotted something. little. Whoop! Gone. Nice cap work though, buddy. Okay, well, let's keep moving a little bit. Randy is wondering which migrating bird species. Hey, don't you get cheeky with me, I'll sort you out. Don't you even think about dropping your head in my direction, mister? What now? I'm not running away. Randy, the bird that travels furthest on its migration is the Arctic tern, and it travels 11,000 miles. So you got to be quite careful. Sometimes these old boys here in the Mara are a lot more aggressive than the ones we get down on Juma. And he looked like he was about to charge me for a second. Now, often when people see that, they'll try and move the car too quickly, and what that can actually do is actually incite a charge. So immediately I've stopped, and I'm giving him the 1,000-yard stare back. Yes, he broke eye contact first. I win. Now, of course, if I was on foot, I would not be feeling nearly as comfortable as I am in a car. Are we finished being full of nonsense, mister? They can move incredibly quickly for a big animal. Now, you notice... Don't you even think about it. I'm watching you. I'm watching you. Yeah. Don't you even think about being cheeky. And you stay right there. There's a couple of other big boys around here. Oh, he's a proper battle-scarred veteran, this guy. He's lost half his horn. Hello, old man. He's a proper old man. Probably around 12 or 13 years old. So in the wild, it's virtually unheard of for a buffalo to live to sort of 15, 16 years old. So in the wild, 12, 13 years old is a good innings for a buffalo bull. Chris is wondering, why are buffalo so aggressive? It's just in their nature. To defend themselves, they get hunted by lions, and well, people would have hunted them traditionally. So he is properly old though. I mean, look at his skin, how wrinkled, and he's almost got no hair left anywhere. Especially on his side, you can see there all the flies are biting him. Poor guy. But that's a properly old buffalo. Battle-scarred warrior. And Cheeky, I'm still watching you behind me. Okay, let's move on. Now, because that one buffalo is a bit cheeky, you see, I start the car, I let it run for a little bit before I move. I let them get used to the sound, and then I'll move. And I also move quite slowly. I don't make any fast movements, so not displaying or making any aggressive noises. Keep talking, keep calm. So quite often you can get yourself into trouble by just moving too quickly at the wrong point, or revving the engine. I'm trying to decide where to go next. I'm wondering whether we might go sit with the Mogoro Pride for a little bit, or maybe go do some more bird watching along the river. While I try to decide what to do next, let's send you back to Sydney and his buffalo.
I am still here with the buffaloes, and the buffaloes are pretty much relaxed, but I can see they're now slowly moving towards the head. So I'm just going to go now deep in this side so that we can try and see if we can reallocate the big head. Maybe we might be lucky and see the rest of the buffaloes. So you can see they're just right there, not even worried about anything. So they're just feeding as a small herd, not threatened at all. I'm trying to check here if we can have an access to the big herd, but I can't see anything. But the direction where we're going is where the big herd is. So you can see there now that they are trying to investigate about our presence. David, that is, chances are very much low in order to have TB by contacting the buffalo droppings. But to the predators, because predators, they catch and eat the livers, and that is whereby they can possibly get hold of those kind of diseases. So buffaloes don't really carry quite a lot of diseases. So now let's go back to Steve, who's got a bird nest.
Yes, we do, and it's my first time actually seeing the youngster. We've got one of the African hawk eagles on the nest here. That is the youngster. You can see by the brown on the legs. The adults are actually white with streaks. So very nice to see. I've spent a lot of time looking at this nest. I've always seen adults hanging around, but this is definitely the youngster. You can see the brown there, I think. It's moved now. So as you can see, kind of like a large platform sort of nest in a tall tree. It's a knobthorn tree. They've also been known to nest on cliffs. Monogamous pair, generally with your large raptors mating for life. And this one still being on the nest, probably not quite ready yet to leave. Or maybe he's left once or twice and come back again. But mum and dad are probably still providing food. Normally 1 to 2 eggs. Normally 1 to 2 eggs with your large raptors, and quite often you get a siblicide or canism, where the larger of the two will kill the other. I'm not 100% sure if it does actually happen with the African hawk eagle, but most eagles that does happen. Okay, so I've just found my app and it says it is very common. In fact, siblicide. Very nice chocolatey brown color. So that's very, very cool. You can see there's a fair bit of white in the tree, and that's actually, or on the branches there, that's actually lichen. There might be a bit of dung there, or bird droppings, but I think most of it's lichen from branches that they have scavenged from all sorts of areas to make the nest a very untidy platform to prevent the eggs rolling out. Big Rich, the wingspan, I'm not 100% sure. Let me have a look if my app can tell us exactly. They're not the largest of eagles. They're 63 centimeters in height, but that's not giving the wingspan. So I don't actually know. I don't have any information to show exactly the size of these animals from a wingspan point of view. Oh, there we go. Wingspan 1.3 to 1.55 meters. Sexes are very similar, the male being slightly smaller than the female, which is common in your large raptors. Just a very slight difference. That's due to the fact that the female spends most of the time incubating on the nest, while the male, being smaller, can move around and bring her back more food. That's also a niche separation. Let's move on there. Of competition, the male will also be able to catch smaller prey than the female. But if you didn't know, we do spend time with the hawk eagles. They are quite a nice cooperative pair when it comes to hunting. feeding on galliforms that we guinea fowl and franklins are quite commonly preyed upon, and one will come in and scare them. They will panic and run, and the second one, coming in a little bit more stealthily, more camouflaged, comes in from the side and catches their dinner, which would then be taken back, probably whole, to a nest like that, and then ripped apart and fed to the waiting chick. Jeanette, I'm not sure about hawk eagles, but there's a number of eagles that will use the same nest from year to year. Wahlberg eagles are quite commonly known to do that. Tawny eagles can as well. Black eagles up in the mountains invariably will. But sometimes nests will completely disintegrate. There might be some wind, but I don't know about hawk eagles. I think these guys have nested here before, V, have they? Not sure. I think Brent was talking about it, that they had nested there before when he found that nest months ago. But it's an interesting one. I mean, I know for a fact that Wahlbergs come back specifically to nest sites, but I don't 100% know about the African hawk eagle. I haven't really seen them nesting too many times in the past. I found many breeding pairs, but never really found the nest. So this is the first nest I've spent some time with, and the first youngster I've seen sitting on a nest as well. So that's very exciting for me to be able to see these things happen. And it's great to be able to find things like that early on, when the eggs are still there and the parent is sort of incubating. You go through the stages of finding what's discarded underneath. I haven't found too much under this tree, but spent some time with a breeding pair of tawny eagles years ago. It was incredible, the amounts of carcasses and bones and carrion that was brought back to the young fledgling. As the tawny eagles are quite a renowned scavenger, but also very efficient hunter and provider. But we found giraffe vertebrae bones underneath the tawny eagle nest once, which is quite incredible actually. Probably from a lion kill. I doubt the tawny eagle managed to take down a giraffe. Don't think that happened. Okay, so those leopard tracks from earlier, no more sign of them coming in. They've all gone north, we believe, and it's starting to get quite warm. So the chances of us bumping into a leopard that's moving around now, I think, has decreased. The chance has decreased quite a lot. But who knows? Who knows what can happen? But it's nice just to be out again in Djuma, moving around, seeing what has changed. And the only thing that's changed is it's gotten drier. Not too much else to report. Gotten drier and dustier. And already the temperature is probably in the high 20s, which means this afternoon is going to be sweltering. You might find one or two of us finding our way to the swimming pool at some stage today. Okay, well, let's keep going along here, see what might pop up from the eastern side, and in the meantime, let's go and see how Sydney's doing after his buffalo encounter.
You can see now here that we are right in the middle of the game reserve, where we have got the biggest breeding head, and you can see now that the breeding head is slowly walking much more towards the western side. They are just everywhere. So they're just everywhere. This is a very big head. I think there are about 100 and something, over 100 buffaloes here. So this kind of animals can be able to smell very well when the wind is changing. I can see that the behavior of the breeding head is different from the head that we saw earlier at the beginning, which was consisted of just a group of males. So, but here, because they have got the small ones, you can see that they are trying to protect their little ones. They can be very quiet. They are so quiet. the buffaloes, when they are pushing each other and fighting from the horns, it can be painful because those buffaloes, if you can check the tip of their horns, some of them are very much sharp. So they are so very much quiet, as if there is nothing here. But I'm talking about over 100 buffaloes are right here, not very far away from where we are, but they are all very much relaxed, settled now, and making no noise. Linda, the buffaloes, the breeding herd, the buffaloes can be very much aggressive because they've got to protect their little ones. But the thing is, in the bush, you must always expect unexpected because you are walking looking for the animals such as cats and accidentally come across the breeding herd. So you must know how to handle these different kind of situations. So you can see that the termite mounds, they do help us a lot when we are watching these animals because it becomes an easy barrier. Standing on top of the termite mound gives me a better vision, but also it's a very good place for safety for in case if something is coming. So now let's go back to Brent, who is now driving. I will be leaving the buffaloes for now and see if we can find any other interesting animal.
Well, we decided we weren't going to go to flat lions just yet, so we made our way towards hippo pools to get on the riverbank again to see if we could see any more little birdies. I don't see any little birdies, but I see a big birdie on the bank. A marabou stork and some more Egyptian geese. Quite a quiet morning in the Mara. I mean, we've seen 3 different sets of lions, but they've all been very, very, very sleepy. And the water level of the Mara River is dropping quite quickly at the moment. You can see the exposed sandbanks down next to us here. If there isn't any rain in the next little while, that sandbank will become completely exposed. Very pretty though. Now I was hoping to find some little waders on these exposed sandbanks, some plovers and lapwings and green shanks and sandpipers and the like, but alas, no such luck. There's a hippo hiding there on the left. There must be a, if you go left a little bit from where you are, Manu. There. Is that a hippo there? Yes, there must be one little deep pool a young hippo is hiding in. Patrick is wondering which bird has the largest flock in the Mara. I would probably say, let's try to think about this. Probably the wattled starlings get into very, very big flocks. So do the swallows. So do black storks and Adam storks when they come through. But I'd probably say, on average, the largest flock is the wattled starlings around the migration, sitting on the wildebeest's back. Now we can hear a few other birds. You can hear a tropical boo-boo somewhere in this thicket in front of me, but I can't see it yet. So somewhere in that thicket there, Manu, down below, I could hear one calling. Oh, but Manu has found something. What is it? Oh, we can't see what it is behind the thorns. It is not the boo-boo that was calling. Oh, it's a dark-capped bulbul again. Everywhere we go today, we seem to find dark-capped bulbuls. I was hoping for a little bit more feathered luck here, but alas, let us continue on. What I might do is head towards some of the marshes. Dash is wondering, are there any parrots in the Mara? Yes, indeed. We have Mayer's parrots in the Mara, and good place to see them along the river here like this, where the big Diospyros trees are. Oof, these holes are getting big on this road. Might have a little check where we saw the North Clan disappear into this morning, or 5 of them at least. We couldn't hear anything earlier, but maybe the situation has changed. Okay, well, I head that way. Let's send you back to Steve to see how his tracking is going.
Thanks, Brent. Lovely that you got you are the whisperer of the darker-capped bulbuls. They are everywhere. They are such a common bird. Such a common bird. All over the place. So the largest flocking birds we find down here be the red-billed quailias. They can occur in hundreds of thousands of birds. And being seed eaters, they can be quite destructive to the landscape, but they were here first. Very small little finch-like bird, about so big. And we will be seeing them in the next few months as they move through. They are nomadic migratory birds in South Africa during the non-breeding season, moving in small little bird parties. But when it comes to breeding season, like the wattled starlings, they'll find a nesting area, but they occur in much larger numbers. The wattled starlings nowhere near as large in number, but very loud themselves. Very nice. It's very cool to be coming to that time of year again when bird breeding is going to be the topic of conversation and migration, because we're constantly learning. Each time we find a new bird or a bird that we maybe know but not too well, then it's really nice. It's nice about being on this show is the ability to constantly learn what is going on, what's going forward. Every time learning something new. For example, I've been in the bush a long time, and seeing that nest is the first time with a chick in it, almost fledged. First time seeing that for an African hawk eagle, which is very special. Constantly learning out here. And we're in an area now where there was some bateleur nesting, and I've revisited those nests a couple times, and there's nothing going on them. So I'm not quite sure what happened. Maybe they moved. It does happen sometimes that the birds will start a nest and then, or maybe build 2 and then just lay in the ones or in a separate nest. Something might have disturbed them in the initial building. They decided to move a little bit more east or west or whatever it might be. Other bateleurs, for example. I'm going to see if we can revisit that again this morning. Maybe each time I've been, it's just been quiet, and maybe the bateleur chicks are now at a more sort of suitable age to be spotted from the nest. As it starts to warm up and get very warm, and the sun starts beating down, most of the raptor chicks want to be away from their nest and being able to do their thing. It's only the Wahlberg eagle that comes here as a raptor to breed in our summer months. And interesting, whenever you do spot a Wahlberg eagle nest, it's always 1 meter, 2 meters below the top of the canopy. And that's to provide the tree canopy with the shelter that the eggs and the nest will need during the hot, hot summer months. All of our other raptors breed in the winter time, as high up in the tree as they generally possibly can to avoid egg predation. A bateleur, though, a little bit further down in the canopy, but quite characteristic in their design. Also platform nest like most of the large raptors. They don't have the delicate sort of beaks or feet to be able to weave and sew their nests like some of the more sort of creative species that we have around. So So heavy. Leopard tracks. Oh, Cal6, I haven't seen the chick yet on the... Here we go. Some male leopard tracks heading straight down on this fire break here. We'll go follow that for a little bit. We'll go past there. Maybe we'll have a little look. Last I was here, they were still sitting on the eggs. So I haven't seen the chick yet in the nest. The vulture there off of Philemon's cutline. Have you seen it, V, since you've been back? So VM's seen it recently. I haven't, Cal6, seen it yet since I've been back, but I'll definitely be making a turn there and seeing how they're doing. Always nice to watch the progress of the vultures. Their numbers are declining due to habitat loss and loss of certain habitat trees by elephant numbers. So when we find them breeding, it's very, very interesting and important to document. Okay, so hold on. Going down a bit of a steep slope into the Ulmawati. You can hear the alarm clocks there, waking everybody up. I don't see any tracks coming through here. Have you got them?
Yeah.
On the left?
Yeah, they're underneath the car.
Underneath the car. Okay. Well, I think they're moving through on this path in front of us, so we're going to get up on the other side, heading straight towards Twin Dams. Let's go see what's on the other side. But while we do that, I believe Sydney has eventually left his buffalo. Let's go see what his plans for the morning are going to be.
I am now with one of the small five here, the ant lion. And the ant lion, I know that a lot of people, they don't realize the significant role the ant lion is doing when it comes to the different cultures and tradition. This ant lion is also medicinal used. Where I come from in Venda, we use the ant lion in order to do the following. We take it and we rub it against the gums of a newborn child in order to develop teeth. How the antlion looks, you'll see it has got the mandibular parts. But apart from that, the body of the antlion is consisted of the chemical constituencies. And these chemicals, they can also help us as an anti-diabetic. So in order to deal with the diabetes, you can come and take the antlion and absorb the juice. That juice is going to lower the glucose level in the blood because the juice has got kind of a substance, and that substance is the one which excites the pancreas in order to release quite a lot of insulin, which is then going to lower the blood glucose. So now, apart from that, you can use the antlion in order to treat malaria. This can be used as an anti-malaria. The dry skin of the antlion can help you against the dangerous diseases such as the malaria. So now we are going to carry on and see if we can find any other tiny little insects. Shadowy, the small fives are the animals whose names are consisting the big five. So the big five is consisted of the lion, the leopard, the elephant, the buffalo, and the rhino. The small five is consisted of the following: the ant lion. The names, these are the animals whose names are consisting the big five. The ant lion, lion is there. The elephant shrew. The elephant shrew is like a rat which has got a long tubular mouth. It's like a probe. And then you have got the leopard tortoise. The leopard tortoise is one of the tortoise. Then you have got the buffalo weaver. The buffalo weaver is a black bird with a red bill. And then you have got the rhino beetle. The rhino beetle is one of the beetles which has got the two horns, similar to the rhino horns. Those are the small fives. Their names are just consisting the original big five. They are not dangerous as the big five. You know, this must be a very big ant lion here. You can see this is quite a very big pit. So these animals come in the mornings, then they drill this and hide in there. When the ant falls is when they're going to catch and just absorb the sip. So they don't come out and hunt. They are part of the sit and wait predators. So Carl 6, thank you very much for such a lovely comment with regards to having Sydney. You love having Sydney on bushwalks. So I'm just trying to check here to see if I can find any other interesting insect. Chris, the animals, such as the hippopotamus, they were not really giving problems to the people. Let me now give you the derivative of the category of the big five. The big five category is consisted of the animals who used to give hunters problems during the hunting days period. Olden days when people were still relying on hunting activities for survival, animals which were giving quite a lot of challenges, it was the big five. Those are the animals which started to be very aggressive towards the human beings, considering a fact that the human beings were hunting them for meat and for other things. Thank you very much for the comment. Yes, indeed, the wildlife is interesting, and the history as well behind wildlife is also very much interesting. So now, let's see one of the interesting animals. I am not lucky here in Juma with the baboons, but Brent has got the baboons at the moment. Let's see the baboons.
They are absolutely fascinating creatures. I can watch baboons for ages. The social dynamics, the joy of the little ones as they scurry about. That one's just sticking with mom for now. Let's just move forward a little bit. It gets into some teenage baboons. They might be up to a little bit more nonsense. This is a really big troop of baboons, probably 70 or 80 spread through. Oh, there's a little baby on both of these females. Have tiny babies on their bellies. You can't even see them. Where's that one? She was sideways for a second and just gripping onto mom's tummy. Very little ones, so they're able to have a snack while on the move. Little things. Now, the olive baboon is far more terrestrial than the chacma baboon or the yellow baboon, so they do spend more time on the ground. And you'll find them in company of lots of some topi, but some impala. Now, of course, if there is a baby impala amongst
I am right here now towards the Galago Pen area in order to try and find something interesting for you. But here what I've got is an old dropping. So I just want to try and open and see. I am not too sure for this, but I just want to check what is it that is in here. And my apologies for the inconveniences. So the cross cut. So now here I have got the evidence. So this evidence are telling me that this was a rhino. But the question is, was it a male or female rhino? when I'm having these droppings at the same place like this, I can be able to judge if this was a male or a female. This was a female. Senzo got it 100%. I can see that Senzo is now getting there. He's going to become a presenter soon. So here, this was a male rhino. So now, let's go back to the clip because now we have lost internet. Welcome back, and my apologies for the inconveniences with regards to the loss of the internet. We are now back again live, and I am still here at the droppings, but it's not the same droppings that I was earlier. So these droppings here, they are from the rhino, and why I was saying the males, this is what they do. Males, dominant males, territorial holders. They come to the spot, they defecate, and after that, they do like this. They kick their droppings, and you will see the two lines. Reason for them to kick their droppings is to be able to pick up the scent and have the scent on their heels, so that when they are walking, they can be able to demarcate their pathways. And apart from that, also, they try to spread the scent where the droppings are kept, because they keep coming at the same spot in order to renew the scent. That's why animals such as rhinos, something I have learned, this is from my own experience, is that rhinos, after heavy rains, they get a little bit of stress, because heavy rains always washes away the scent. So you will see them after rain, they must have to go back and renew the scent. You will see them using the droppings, and when running out of droppings, they will be using the urine as well. You have to be very careful after heavy rains with those kind of rhinos. So here I can see that this is right in their territory, because there's quite a lot of droppings nearby here. Now I have got the elephants. So you can see that the elephants, they don't really... Oh, there's something happening here. Okay. Who is eating who here? I can see one is being dragged. Oh, the ants. Look at this. The ants flying insect. I can see that it is the ants that is now pulling one of the insects. So the ants, they've got powerful jaws. You can see they can drag something which can be 20 times to 50 times bigger than their body weight. But look, this ant is able to contain a very big insect, and they can't even grab it nicely. You can see that every time he is trying to navigate the road, and this insect wants to fly away with the ant, but the ant is so very strong in such a way that they can hold on these branches. This is amazing. Look, this ant, you can see this animal is trying to fight for his life, but the ants is just keep pulling. Oh, now something just happened. Oh, it was not the ant. These two insects were mating. I thought the arrangement of these legs, it was the ants pulling. Look, now I can see one has got the wings and the one doesn't have. Obviously, one of them must be a male, another one a female. Not even too sure what the species of this insect is. But these insects were mating. It was not the ants. My apologies for that. So I couldn't see very well, because they were just strangling, and it was difficult to even see the form of an animal. That was interesting. First time for me to see this kind of insect mating. It was indeed something very much rare. Senzo is the one who saw that they were mating, because he's very observant and is checking the monitor every time, and I was right on an animal. Yeah, it's one of the very small insects, and when I'm looking at the head, so the head looks a little bit like an ant. I saw the compound eyes there, and I saw one of them has got wings, and they're not big, but the color of the insect and the shape of the muzzles, it was more like an ant, the design, but with the wings. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's one of them. So I've got to investigate after these activities. I will find out. I will know who that was. So now, let's go to Steve and see what Steve is doing. I haven't heard much about Steve this morning. Maybe he's being successful.
He hasn't heard much. Well, we've been driving around, and we've been reaffirming my territorial bonds onto this place, because that is what you do when you disappear for a little while. You got to come back and re-establish yourself. And we had some fresh tracks of a male leopard we were following, and they disappeared on us. We were just trying to figure out where they might have gone. We're now headed towards a Treehouse Dam and hoping to see who it might be that's possibly come out. Kind of on a typical sort of route that Tingana likes to travel. There's some old lion tracks in the road as well, but we lost him a little bit over there, and there's a good chance he might have continued on. We're going to go check the water source just up ahead, see if there's any luck. You never know. I believe he was here yesterday at some point. No one followed up on him yesterday afternoon, but then, you know, he can cover an enormous distance if he doesn't have a kill in his territorial pursuits, just like what myself and Wildebeest have done this morning. We've pretty much traversed the entire property, which has been nice. Nice to get out, see it all again. I'm going to check on how all the watering holes are diminishing. Hello Karen, it's very interesting. Summer and winter, they both have such differences about them. I think the beautiful thing about being out here is the contrast. If it was the same all the time, I think one would get bored, but because you go through the summer, you get the flowers, the trees, the smells, the heat, the rain, the young animals, the heat being probably the biggest downfall of the summer, and then you get the winter, which is dry, easier to track, animals more congregated around watering points, and just the sparseness of vegetation. So I think that's what's nice about it. You get the spring with the flowers and the fruits and then the babies, and then it dries out, and then you start getting more animals being killed, and I think it's nice having the contrasting seasons. So I wouldn't say I prefer either one. I think I'm quite ready for spring now, quite ready for summer, and then as soon as it starts getting hot, I'm going to say I'm quite ready for winter again. But it's nice to have the contrasts, and it's nice to keep having that dynamic with regards to what to discuss, because as summer comes along, there's lots of different things to identify. They'll be able to identify all the trees again. Lots of wildflowers coming through. All the grasses are going to produce their flowers, the inflorescence and their seeds. Oh, we have a hyena drinking by the pan. So this is Treehouse Watering Hole with a young, looks like a small hyena there. I wonder if it's been following one of our leopards. No tracks coming along this road towards it. Very very tasty looking water there, isn't it, Via? Delicious. It's the last remnants of this watering hole. It is dying for some rain, which will replenish it again. The rains will come with summer and late spring and wash away the dust and the tracks and revitalize it all again. Josh, rains could start as early as the 1st of September, really. There's no such thing as expected anymore. We could expect rain anywhere between September and June these days. But invariably, the Savannah biome can get rainfall as early as August. But summer, spring and September is generally the time. But it really is changing every year. Every year we go by, we get rain in October, and then you might get rain in November, and then it might be most of it in December, and then sometimes it might also go through December, January, February. I know this year we had quite a lot of rain in April and May, so it really is changing. Oh, here we go. He's a little bit hot. Let me just put my bottom down in the water. It's very hard work being a hyena in the sunshine, baking down on you, drinking very muddy water. I'm sure someone out there can identify this individual. I have no idea how to identify a hyena. It's a very pretty one though. Not an ugly face, not scarred and old and dirty. Still seemingly quite young. So yeah, the rain could be any day now. After the lots of the wind we've been having, this warm front has hit through. Generally, you can expect some form of front to pull through with some rain, but it's very hard to say. Generally, our summer months, with what we get a lot of high pressure cells in and around this area, and the angle of the sun as well leads to warmer days and more evaporation. Okay, let me move forward. Sorry, V. Oh, Crystal, you tell us that that's Ntima. Very good. Ntima, there we go. She's posing for us one more time. Ntima, I'm guessing, is a female by the name Ntima, but then I have no idea. It's definitely a youngster, in my opinion. Well, it's moving off into the thickets, nose to the ground, very wet bottom on the right hand side from where it just lay in the mud. Lots of oxpeckers calling off there. I can see some kudu in the distance. It's that time of year where we're finding lots of buffalo in and around, as you've noticed. I found their tracks all over the place. And this hyena moving away from the water, obviously on a game path there, is picking up on all sorts of senses and smells. Everybody, you say it's a female, thank you very much. And Tima just sounds like a female name, doesn't it? Well, the flowers are in abundance. Let's keep moving, shall we, V, before they suck all of our blood. It's that time of year where the insects that are alive are really struggling for moisture, so they love to come over here to the wet of your eye and the side of your mouth. And as you know, my job is to talk. I spend a lot of time with my mouth open and quite often ingest insects. Okay, well, before it runs away, let's go over to Sydney and talk about the tree that he's looking at.
I am right now in the middle of the guari bush. I think it is an ornament for me to find myself right in the middle of this kind of a bush. You will hear why I'm saying this. I can see that there's some of the insects that are going very fast. I'm not sure if Senzo can be able to catch that. Those are the ants. You can see there. So the ants can be very much fast. So these ants, they have been employed by this tree. This is the guari bush. So the guari bush and other trees, they normally employ the ants to come and do some other important jobs here. But the ants, when they get to the tree, sometimes they can be biased. They forget what they are there for. Let me explain how it works. The trees that are growing in the drier areas whereby there is a water shortage, they don't lose quite a lot of water as the trees who are growing by the wetland. So the trees that are in the dry season, these dry areas, is the trees that have got to do quite a lot of symbiotic relationship with some other insects in order to save water from the leaves. So the leaves, when seeing the leaves, you must appreciate them because this is where our food comes from. It is the leaves which are converting quite a lot of things into food for the tree, and the tree, when it's got food, it becomes food for the animals. So the interesting story is that the ants get employed to come here and look after the leaves in order to chase away the insects, because the insects can eat quite a lot of leaves from these trees. So now these ants, they turn to use the tree as their farm area, because when they see the other insects such as the scale insects, the insects that eat sugar, they don't kill them and they don't chase them because they want to get sugar as a benefit. In other words, they want to get sugar as a big payment from the tree. But the ants, they are so very restricted because they don't have a probe like a mosquito to be able to sip the sugar from the tree. So they will wait until the scale insects come. The scale insects are going to come and do this. It's going to come and absorb the sugar. When the sugar is absorbed, the scale insects, when the stomach is full of sugar, instead of defecating the normal droppings, they defecate the sugar in the form of fluid, and the ants are going to get that sugar. So these ants, they come here with a responsibility of protecting, and they become biased and let some of the insects which are going to give them sugar for their survival. Interesting, the dependency between insects and the trees is amazing. So now I am going to carry on and see what we can find. But apart from that, this tree is also medicinal used. This is one of the trees you can use in order to fight against the infertility. If you take the roots, boil the roots, you can drink that roots in order to solve those kind of things. Oh, I'm very lucky because I don't have any of those ants here on me. So I can see that all the ants, they are left behind by their tree doing their own responsibility. So now, let's go to Steve, who's got the monitor lizard.
Well, we've got what we think is a monitor. It might be two monitors, or it might be a two-tailed monitor, as Viam said a moment ago. And they're in the small cavity, natural cavity of a marula tree, basking their tails in the sun, thinking we can't see them. Well, got news for you. Oh, there's an agama up here as well, V. Just up on the branch. Can you see him? There we go. There's a blue-headed tree agama, a female, I think, or a non-breeding male, feeding on probably ants or insects that, as Sydney rightfully said, act in defending the plant against other insects, generally sap-sucking insects. Very camouflaged. The reason I say it's a female is because in the agamas, the males get this very bright blue head that stands out very, very contrastingly against the marula itself. But you can see how camouflaged that guy is. If he hadn't been moving, I wouldn't have spotted him or her. So I'm thinking it's a tree agama, blue-headed tree agama female. You might all be able to correct me out there. But even when they're not breeding, the males have got a slightly bluish tinge to the head, but it gets very, very blue in the breeding season. quite a beautiful specimen, in fact. 3 reptiles in a tree. Fantastic. And as I say that, I hear the characteristic call of the lizard buzzard in the distance. I would very much like to catch one of these lizards, the agama or the monitor. And the monitors are having a little bit of a rest. Who knows what it is they're doing behind their closed doors. Chris, I don't think it is possible. I mean, maybe in some nuclear weird state there might be 2 tails on a monitor, but I don't think it's been recorded. But there might be a deformity out there that's occurred. I don't know. I've never seen one. I've never heard of one. So I'm going to guess that this is 2 that are just enjoying the same space inside of that hole. Maybe they're a mating pair. Who knows? Maybe they're incubating eggs. I've never seen 2 tails hanging out of a tree before. Have you? No. So, first for us, we've seen genitails out of trees before, bush babies. That's the first for me, seeing 2 in a very characteristic tree, the marula, with a natural cavity. These guys are slowly producing. This one doesn't have at the moment. I saw all sorts of flowers on the marulas yesterday. There's little buds coming out to the tips. Those are the leaves that are about to come out. And I think these trees are very excited for the oncoming rains that will be arriving, hopefully, soon. Hopefully we get a nice downpour before I leave. I'm heading up to the Mara on the 26th. So it'd be nice to see this place slowly transform before that. Wow, that was a unique sighting for me. Hello Kendall, my favourite thing about the Mara, well, I've only been there for 10 days, but I love the expanse, the openness. I mean, for example, where we are now, you know, we can just have a little look, and in the distance you can kind of make out a distance away, but invariably there's trees everywhere. You can kind of see, and this is winter, so this is as far as you can see on a flat surface, whereas in the Mara, wherever you park there, you can just see as far as the eye can see. It's just open landscape. So for me, that's quite something to behold. It's something I've always wanted to see. But then the birding up there is spectacular. There are enormous amounts of birds, and I'm looking forward to adding to my list from last time. But we were discussing the vulture earlier. We're going to pop down the road here quickly to where the nest is. Go and have a look and see how this vulture chick is doing. No doubt she's also approaching a fledgling stage before it gets too hot. W. James is also going to the Mara on the 26th. Well, fantastic. Whereabouts are you travelling from, sir? Whereabouts are you travelling from for the Mara? Here we've got a bird that is quite often overlooked. Most people will look at it immediately and say what it is. But I wonder, hashtag SafariLive out there quickly, who can tell us? Whoa, it's gone. Oh, there it is. It's just off to the right now. Who can tell us what that is? And it's landed on the floor. It probably should land back up again in the branch. There it is. Hashtag SafariLive, who can tell me the bird on screen? Very, very beautiful. Very pretty black bird. Now, the black in the feathers is as a response to melanin in the feathers. You get keratin and melanin in feathers, and the melanin actually helps the feathers to stay quite strong. So black feathers are a lot stronger than white feathers because of the melanin produced by the pigment or inside the feathers, keeps it very, very strong. And they don't need to shed them as easily or as quickly, as rapidly as other birds might need to. Ooh, see, Pavlo, you fell for it. You thought it's a fork-tailed drongo, but it's not. Not a fork-tailed drongo. No, the tail of a fork-tailed drongo is very, very wide with a very big fork in it. And it was one of the things I remember with students saying to them, they would go, oh, fork-tailed drongo. But if you look closely, if you look back again, if you don't mind, V, if you look closely at it, you'll notice that the tail is quite narrow at the back. Quite narrow. He's landed now nicely for us there. Quite narrow. The beak is strong, but it's not very strong. And it's got a black eye. It's got a black eye. So it is not a fork-tailed drongo. We'll give one more moment for people to guess. But it is in fact mimicking the fork-tailed drongo, in my opinion. Anita and Mags, well done. It is indeed the southern black flycatcher. You can see it is related to the fork-tailed drongo. Fork-tailed drongo is indeed a flycatcher, but the tail is much wider at the base with a very big fork. And the beak is quite strong on the fork-tailed drongo. There is a second one there. It's quite strong and thick. And the body is also a little bit more robust, but the fork-tailed drongo also has got a red eye. So there you can clearly see it's a very black eye there. So don't always just assume first glance. If you didn't get your binoculars to it, don't just guess. That's one of the things I always used to tell my students. I'd say, what's that? Oh, fork-tailed drongo. I say, did you look with your binoculars? And often the answer was no. So in my opinion, and this is completely my own theory, I believe that the southern black flycatcher mimics the fork-tailed drongo, because the fork-tailed drongo, as most of us know, is regarded as the honey badger of the sky. So they're very powerful and aggressive birds, and they're territorial and they chase everything away. So this bird looks just like the fork-tailed drongo, enough for us to confuse it. So it probably gets away with a lot more in nature than it would if it was slightly different in color. Kind of a mimicry, as you will. A mimicry in a way of going, well, if you think I'm a fork-tailed drongo, there's a good chance you're going to leave me alone. That's my theory anyway, and I think it works quite well. Same with the fiscal flycatcher and the fiscal shrike. Anyway, we're going to head up here, see if we can see that vulture and the nest. And while we do so, we're going to be going all the way up to the place I'm going to be visiting soon with Brent in the Masai Mara. Let's go see what he's up to.
Well, there we go. We found a beehive in a boskia. So in a shepherd's tree. And we've been past the shepherd's tree quite a few times. Manu, have you ever seen bees in it before? So they've obviously moved in here recently. They look quite busy. Well, I can tell you now, there's not going to be many lions or hyenas sleeping under this tree for the next little while. I was trying to see if we could... We can't really... It's quite deep in there. Busy, busy bees. Now, of course, these are African killer bees. Now, for those of you in the northern hemisphere, the African killer bee is our normal honeybee. Very, very cool. They're such fascinating creatures, bees. I've had a few run-ins with bee swarms before. I've had to jump into a dam once or twice to avoid them while I was fishing. Jason is wondering, can we eat the honey they make? Yes, indeed we can. It is delicious. And quite a lot of the local communities in this area, up and around our camp, have beehives that they make and put into the trees. So there's quite a lot of natural honey produced in this area. Yum, yum, yum. I did quite a fair bit of beehive raiding in my teens. Tim is wondering, are these bees more aggressive than normal? Well, it depends what you decide is normal. The African killer bee is relatively aggressive. But compared to the European honeybee, which is what you get in the northern hemisphere, yes, they are more aggressive, but these are just normal bees, so they're not more aggressive than normal African bees. They're busy. Now, I wonder what they're probably feeding off some of the Diospyruses. Tim is wondering, is it true that elephants don't like bees? Yes, it is true. Although they can get used to them, but as a general rule, they don't like bees at all, no. Suppose if they get stung in the soft spots, or the sound might be quite irritating for them. But no, they don't particularly like bees. No animals really like bees except for honey badgers, because they can raid the nests and get to that honey. It's almost like a really, really super busy airport terminal, except no one gets confused. There's no bumping into each other. There's constantly going in and out. Now, if you look very carefully, they're moving so quickly though, you can often see the ones coming in. They fly a little bit more heavily, and you can sometimes see the pollen they've collected on their legs and on their bodies. But they are flying quite quickly this morning. Oh, we've got an ant. Is it an ant or a wasp? No, it's an ant. He's got a nice safe tree now. Very few. Oh, no, it's not. Is that green, Manu? I think it's actually a longhorn beetle. Very cool. Little emerald longhorn. Yeah, a longhorn beetle. I'm cleaning his antennae. So the longhorn beetle will be at this tree for a very different reason. It's probably there to lay its eggs in this tree. So the longhorn beetles are all wood borers, so their larvae will actually burrow into the wood and possibly even destroy the bee's home eventually. Shame. But that could take a while. Okay, well, we'll let the bees continue to be busy and move along, and while we do that, we're going to send you back to Steve, who's at another raptor's nest.
There's nothing like African honey. I really enjoy it. But anyway, as promised, we are here by the vulture's nest, the white-back vulture, and we spotted the youngster a little while ago. There's the adult on the top, and the youngster's in the nest at the moment. He's ducked down, I think, just hiding. There's a 2-month incubation period on a platform nest like that, very similar to the hawk eagle or most other sort of large raptors, a platform nest. And about 2-month incubation, and then about sort of 3 fledging, and then the youngster will be dependent on the adult for up to 5 to 6 months, which is quite interesting, as the adults will provide them with food. But the youngster's got darker shoulder patches down. In the early stages, the adults are very, very close. They don't really leave the youngster until about 90 days, and then they go off together to feed. But there's always one nearby looking after it. So very cool to see. The birds are breeding and doing their thing. Back out in Djuma in the Sabi Sands. So nice to be out in the African sunshine. This morning we've covered the entire boundary. We found a few tracks. Sadly, we didn't do too well on finding any animals, but it has been nice to have Sydney on foot with Rexon finding the buffalo, and that's quite a nice highlight. And Brent up in the Mara doing all the things he does wonderfully well up there with those lions and all of his birding. Let's have one more look at these birds up in the tree. Hopefully we'll get to see that young vulture popping its head up for us. It'd be nice if it did. But a diet of carrion brought back to the nest in the crop of the adults. You can see there's all white on the nest there as well from the defecation. Very long gut. With the vultures, you would lose the paint off of your car due to all of that. But for all of you who've joined us this morning and have been interactive, thank you for your feedback, your questions and your comments. It has been fantastic to be out. And we will be out again this afternoon doing what we do best I'm not sure who it's going to be up in the Mara, maybe David. But thank you for your feedback. We'll see you this afternoon. Have a beautiful, beautiful day and see you later. Goodbye.